This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Rip right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo, the podcast.
Hey, it's SVP and Russillo, just me. But please listen to the podcast. My life depends on it. Guest list includes Chris Long, as it does every Friday. Louis Riddick talking Brady Fine. And the best in the business on play-by-play. It's Doc Emrick talking about what a Game 7 is like. I did something I never do. I went to sleep with the Clippers leading by 19. Imagine my surprise when I woke up. That, and was that more surprising than Delhi, Matthew Dellavedova, getting himself a podium game? That and Mad Max, a review. It's all part of the podcast. Starts now.
Now, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio.
And ESPNradio.com.
Something happened last night, and there's two ways I could handle this. I could just absolutely be a fraudulent host, and I could talk very specifically about the things that happened last night that allowed the Houston Rockets. Remember this? The Houston Rockets. Hey, all you Rocket fans that said, you're right. I could talk about this Game 6 fiasco for the Clippers, or I could tell you what happened, which is that Griffin hit that shot in transition where he wasn't even looking. They're up 18. They go up 19. And a team in Houston that hadn't shown a great deal of will, hadn't shown a great deal of pushback, fight back, resistance was the term that Chauncey used the other day when he came in here, just was offended that they would show so little resistance. That team on the road, down by 19, and I punted. I went to bed, and I never do that. I was sleepy. I've been getting up early, man. I used to be able to sleep. Back in the day, people would call me at like 2 in the afternoon, and you'd answer the phone, you'd do that, hello? Were you asleep? And what do you always say? No. Well, I'd say that at 2 in the afternoon because saying you were asleep and were still sleeping from the night before would be an unacceptable social answer. But people do that anyway. And I don't even have a house phone, and I turn my phone off at night, so you could never wake me up on a phone call. But when you wake up someone with a phone, they'll always say, no, I wasn't sleeping. As if admitting you were is some kind of indication of physical frailty or something, which is not true. But I was tired, and the Clippers were up by 1 million, and I went to bed. Stanford Steve, did you?
Yep.
What a terrible job we did. We missed an insane comeback that did not, this is my favorite part of this, that when I wake up and I go, wait, what? Wait, what? And then you sift through and you get the details and you figure out Harden wasn't even playing? Your MVP didn't even play? Doc, what happened to your squad?
I thought we were trying to run the clock out, and we stopped playing. And they kept playing, and then once it got to 8, you can just feel it. You know, we wasted a couple of timeouts with loose ball stuff, so, I knew I only had 2. I had to try to conserve those. What could have went wrong.
Blake Griffin, the guy that authored that impossible shot. I mean, look, it was just a circus. The route's on. They're having fun. Griffin's hitting shots. And then, apparently, as I talked to one of my buddies that saw the game, that Doc speaks of you could feel it. The Clippers, all of a sudden, that were playing loosey-goosey, now house money, everything's cool. They start gripping hard. Blake Griffin on that.
They trusted each other, and they played very freely. And we didn't. We kind of, you could tell we kind of got stunned.
Kind of got stunned. You had a 19-point lead at home against a team that you beat by 100 back-to-back games in your place. And you let this happen? They got outscored 40-15 in the fourth quarter. 40-15 in the fourth quarter. A fourth quarter, again, that did not include James Harden. Didn't play. He was 5 of 20 in this one. They left a bunch of different other guys out there, including Josh Smith, who hit 4 of 7 threes, had 19 points. He had a real simple explanation.
Just being aggressive, not one to go home this early, force a Game 7. This is what we fought all season long for home court, to be able to, to put the pressure back on them for a Game 7 at our house.
It's SVP and Russillo. It's ESPN Radio. I cannot believe this happened. I do believe that I turned it off, and I know why I did. I felt entirely justified. If I think a game, if it's a coin flip game, even if you're tired, you want to watch it because I'm a sports fan. To the detriment of the rest of my life, there's very little else that even interests me besides outcomes of sports. That's embarrassing. I'm an adult. I mean, my child does, but she's asleep at that hour, so I don't feel badly that late night I like watching games. But this game didn't feel like a game. I don't even know, how did this happen? Kevin McHale. And people were crushing this guy. You talk about making adjustments. He had the wherewithal and the gumption to stick with a lineup that didn't include their best player. Why?
Josh came in and...
Is this it? Yeah, this is it. Is this it? Yes.
Josh came in and Josh played lights out. I mean, couple big blocks. Those guys, their energy level on the defensive end just was huge for us. And they just kept, like I said, they kept grinding, and Brew was attacking, and Josh made a couple of big shots. Dwight was getting the ball done, but Dwight was rebounding, and that group was just that group was very dynamic on the defensive end, and we were able to run off.
I can't believe this. What's Russillo going to do if Paul and his group get knocked out like this, man? What's he going to do? I mean, what do you say? Paul had 31 and 11. I mean, it's not his fault. But now you go back to, now you have to win. You've got to win, or else this would be one of the most colossal collapses I can recall. Because I gave you the reverse mortgage on Graham's house lock of a lifetime Game 5. That's just human nature. If professional pride exists in Houston, they're going to go home. They're the 2 seed. They earned that. They're going to win that game. That's just the way that life goes. It's not complicated. I think Washington wins tonight for that very same reason, although Chicago did, and we'll get to them momentarily. But this 19-point lead at home, and you crumble like this? I'm not burying the Clippers. I'm not writing their obit today, because they showed an ability against a superior playoff team in San Antonio to put a dud of a performance behind them and win. What was it? They win Game 4 on the road? That was what it was. They won Game 4 on the road in San Antonio after losing at home losing on the road on a Friday night by like 25. They put that behind them and they won. But now it's Game 7, and there's no more digging out of this. You lose this and it's over. Your season is over. And I was saying the Rockets. I said it repeatedly. And I was mad at them because they didn't possess any professional pride, any punchback. Or at least I didn't see it. It wasn't evident. And to do this without your best player is one of the more inexplicable outcomes. When you saw this morning, what did you think? Stand for Steve.
See, I went to bed, I think we're like second quarter, and I
oh, wait, you didn't even make it to halftime?
No. And I'm like,
what were you doing? Why weren't you
tired?
We gotta be here
early.
We gotta be here for our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, I DVR it. I watch it in the morning.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
You got stuff going in the morning. You got your kids.
Yeah, I gotta get going in the morning, but I have a little window where I could check back.
All right.
But I also went to bed like, if the Rockets come back, I really don't want to stay up and say I watched that either. What do you think the line is? Game 7.
Houston. Clippers were favored in Game 5. I told you money line was where you wanted to be. Get more back for your buck. I don't know. It's like pick 'em. Clippers by a bucket. I mean, something like
Clippers
that.
Clippers -2.
Yeah, it'll be a small number. Look, they seem like the better team. But if you lose like this man, Bro, I don't know. That's all I got. I don't have any clarity. I don't have any wise words for you. It's rare that something can totally shock me in sports. Unexpected things happen all the time. But I'm talking about 0-0 if Houston wins this game. Wow, that'll be interesting. I don't see the path for that. Tell me how it happens. But 40-15 in the fourth quarter without James Harden? I mean, that's beyond, hey, crazy stuff happens in sports.
SVP and Russillo.
You are listening live. Don't get all defensive with Chris Long.
Chris, last week we talked about this whole Brady situation, and you explained that it's really just not a topic of conversation among the group. Has it become one at all now that it's a 4-game suspension? Are guys like, man, that seems harsh, or that seems right, or is it just not even still a conversation topic?
When we constantly have SportsCenter on in the training room and all that stuff. So, Naturally, there you go. And, the thing about it is, I think it's more of a conversation now that the suspension and the fine and the draft picks, that stuff's been levied, I think. And that was the point, I guess. Guys are talking about it. I think you'll get a wide range of reactions. I think it's probably a little harsh, but, I failed to grasp the issue with the footballs there yet because I don't touch them, so I don't know.
You should try to touch him. You should try to not just sack the quarterback, but you should try to get the football, and then you could squeeze it and say, "Hey, this one."
I scored a tutty. I scored a tutty 2 years ago.
Yeah. Cool. That's 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago, Russillo still kind of had hair. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, that's a low blow, dude.
Hey, he's not sitting here. Do you understand now why last week when you asked a question about the show, why it was kind of crickets? Like you're asking if he's leaving, and I'm thinking, well, he's not, but yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like, and Twitter blew up, after I did that, and I felt like bad because I was like, wait, did I give something away? I mean, because y'all really didn't tell me, for the record.
That's true.
That was just my clairvoyant quality coming through on radio.
And your insatiable curiosity for knowledge.
Yeah. I asked all the tough questions, man. I could be one of y'all. So, yeah, I mean, and then everybody this week is acting like I'm like the guy who broke up, like Yoko Ono or something. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, just because I asked the question, it was already, the wheels were in motion.
Yeah,
I did. The funny thing was, here's how I felt this week. And by the way, what I meant when I said your show has been awesome, but
thank you.
I feel like my parents are getting a divorce or something, and it's just an odd feeling. Like I don't know how it's going to look. Seeing you on your late night show, I think I'm going to be very happy for you, but there's always going to be that, I miss SVP and Russillo. So I texted Ryan with those sentiments, and he said, I'm going to win the custody battle. You can stay with me, bro.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you have a counter.
Well, I got a way bigger television downstairs and more space. So it's also there is a 2-year-old that wanders around, and she's going to kind of be in charge. So no 2-year-old at Russillo's, larger big screen downstairs in the basement, and you kind of have the run of the land. Like there's some space for you to really get loose down.
You have acres?
There's some acreage.
I don't know if Ryan has acreage.
No, he does not have acreage. But he has late nights. So kind of you got to weigh the late nights versus the acreage. But listen, it's not like, here's the thing. A lot of people have said this. This isn't a divorce. This is a situation where something's too good to pass on for me, and it took.
Right. It's an amicable divorce. It's one of those like, hey, we still love each other. Here's why mom and dad are moving out of the house.
Because it'll be better. It'll be better for both. And I will. He can get you for custody, but I'm definitely going to bother you for some kind of a segment on the late night show, which we can tape at your convenience.
I'm a night owl.
I know that's right. We're visiting with Chris Long as we do every week here. I have a question about how you watch the NBA as it relates to injuries. You love the league, and you and your teammates famously have a fantasy league, which you kind of punted on this year because of injuries and whatever else, but that's not the issue here. My question is this. You guys play hurt. How do you view guys like, say, LeBron or Kyrie or Connolly or I could go down the list. Everyone's playing a little bit banged up. Do you guys kind of eye roll when people talk about their rolled ankles and try to gut it out in the NBA?
I really don't, because personally, one thing my pops taught me at an early age was, one thing he tries to do on TV, and something I've tried to do is I look at people in other sports, and even in my own sport, is never question somebody's injury, because you don't know what they're going through. And I've had some stuff that seemed pretty minor that was absolutely brutal, and I've had stuff that would seem pretty major, and it was pretty easy. The only thing I could do without is every time a guy hits the ground, he stays down for like 8 seconds, and then he gets up and he's good, and he runs a fast break next possession. I mean, other than that, those dudes are some of the most elite athletes on the planet. So, a rolled ankle to them, it might affect their skill set more than it affects mine.
Understood, and that answer makes sense. You respect that your guy could be hurt, but maybe the theatrics after you hit the deck are unnecessary. I would agree with that sentiment. I want to close with an unrelated question about locker room sort of etiquette. I think what people have learned about you, if they didn't know on this show, is you are affable, you are accessible, and you are likable. Are you that guy in the locker room to a younger guy, or do you play sort of a more standoffish role? What's Chris Long like in the locker room if somebody's, say, a rook?
Well, I think most vets are they're not going to seek out rookies to help them out. Maybe in their position group, like we've got a couple of rookies in our position group, and I try to make sure that he knows everything he needs to know. He's got great coaches, but there's a lot of people out on the field, so if I have a chance, I'll pull them aside and help them. But, otherwise, I'm not really going to talk to rookies unless they talk to me. Might introduce myself.
Why?
But it was funny like 2 weeks ago, I was sitting at the lunch table with this kicker, this just average-looking kicker dude. And it was funny because I was like, we have the best kicking unit in the league. Like, we don't need any more kickers. And then I noticed this kid had a Clemson shirt on, and I was like, well, I don't know. I never heard Clemson had any good kickers. And he gets up from the table, and I didn't speak to him. And this buzz starts up about, that's the guy. Guys are whispering. It was Daniel Rodriguez, who you guys evidently have had on the show.
Yep.
Purple Heart. He's got, 2 tours, Afghanistan and maybe Iraq. And it was like, man, I feel like an idiot. I wish I had shook his hand. And that was the first time in my life I had been kind of, starstruck by a rookie. And so luckily I patched it up the next week and, introduced myself. But here's the baddest dude in the building. And obviously he's not a kicker. Yeah, he's a wideout. And he's an absolute badass. And, it was a unique situation.
Yeah, he's not a kicker, but he is. You described it well. His interview with Ryan and I is one that we will always remember as the show transitions in the fall. And just one thought on that. We got way more cookies and sweets in my house and ice creams. And if that's something that matters,
just write it into the terms, and you guys just present it to my attorney, and we'll figure it out.
Is your attorney better than your IT team?
My IT team has had some rough spots this year.
Yeah.
And we don't need to dwell on them.
Okay.
But my IT team it hung up my fantasy basketball. It got a poor connection on one of our interviews this year. A couple really rough spots, but we'll get it all fixed up. We've had to fire a couple people.
I just want to know. I want to know the level. I just want to know the level of competency with the attorney if it's on par with the IT team, because as we know, there have been some rough patches, which are behind us. I'm not focused on the past. I'm focused on the future with you, Chris, and looking forward to you spending quality time with your pops, SVP, down in the basement.
No, my dad has a flat top, bro.
Yeah, I don't. With your Uncle Scott. With your cool Uncle Scott.
Cool.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, brother.
Talk to you soon.
Later.
SVP and Russillo.
No, for real.
I told you I thought the Rockets would win at home because professional pride kicks in. You don't want to go out like that. However you want to describe it. That's a Game 5. They did what happened last night, as we discussed. It's funny on Twitter. Some people that we're off, we're just our night owls like me and have late slumber habits, or just waking up to the snooze, doing the same routine as me. Wait, what? And I said yesterday, and I pray you didn't take Nick Friedell's advice. Stanford Steve, now, you didn't, you weren't on him?
No. I told Nick after when he came on yesterday, I said, there's no chance.
Okay, well,
I'm riding with you.
Look, you're the beat guy for the Bulls. You're close to that energy. You're also probably optimistic. To a degree, you know the team, and you just want to see the team that you cover play well. Particularly given the fact that there's this odd backdrop in Chicago where everyone just understands that this marriage is doomed. It's been successful. They've been a good basketball team, but everyone seems to understand that Thibodeau's last game, which, as it turned out, was last night, will be the end of the line. And I expected to see the Bulls play with it's professional pride is the term I keep using, and also not just professional pride, but take measure of the opponent. Now, LeBron is a problem because he's who he is, best in the world. But Love's gone. Kyrie gets injured and is out of the game. And let's take LeBron and his 15 off the page. It's Timothy Mozgov, Tristan Thompson, Iman Shumpert, Kendrick Perkins, James Jones, J.R. Smith. That group's better than Pau Gasol, Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler. That group? Come on. And the hero of the night for Cleveland, just in terms of points, I mean, they had a commanding lead after a high-scoring first quarter. It was nobody could make shots. But Matthew Dellavedova, is the scoring hero. Picked a great night to have a great night. Goes for 19 points. Earns himself a podium game and a chance to be heard on ESPN Radio.
What was it like being booed like LeBron tonight?
I don't know if I was booed like that. I don't really hear that.
More than just a leg lock, guys.
Well, I mean, I've played at Gonzaga and BYU, and it was definitely a lot louder the boos there. So
that's fun. You could hear the shots fired. Was LeBron giving play-by-play about the leg lock comment? Here's the thing about Dellavedova. If you love basketball, and I do, then you remember this guy at St. Mary's, and he's talking about his comparison is BYU and Gonzaga because he's Australian. We'll try to go non-West Coast Conference references when we get asked about. I mean, but that's all he's got to go on. You know, this is his first podium game here. But if you watch this guy play in college, there was a ton to love about it. But as I'm watching him take and get buckets last night in this giant spot, I'm thinking, how many guys like that are there sitting around right now watching going, are you joking? Like, I couldn't get the opportunity this guy got. Maybe part of it's opportunity. A lot of life is opportunity. A lot of it. I mean, I could retrace the steps back to my Golf Channel days, and none of this was supposed to happen, but here I sit. But Delly always had a ton to love about his game, and it was really cool to see him on this stage get those 19 points. But they didn't win because of him. He just scored a bunch of points that took a working margin and stretched it out to this is going to be too much margin. He's the fun story of last night. Cleveland makes it to the conference finals. LeBron's been there 5 straight years. Nobody's done that since Chauncey Billups, who made it 7 straight years to the conference finals. But is anyone sitting there right now? Cleveland's going to be one of the last 4 teams standing. Do they look unbeatable? Do they seem invincible? Not even close to me. Sure, having LeBron means you have the best player in the world, the guy that can most clearly exert his singular will in a way that's going to be incredibly difficult to stop. But again, Kyrie's on the bench. Love's not going to play anymore this season. And I read for you the names of these guys. I mean, Shumpert and Smith. Those are your core guys that are I'm supposed to be afraid of. No, they don't seem demonstrably better than either Atlanta or Washington. And if you're Chicago and you If you see the box score and you see Kyrie sits and LeBron scores 15, you're thinking, how many do we win by, right? Isn't that what you're thinking? And you lose by 21 at home in this spot. Derrick Rose was asked afterwards about who his coach would be next year if he had a vote.
Tibbs, I told you we grew a bond together, with him being on USA Basketball, him coming out to LA actually to check up on me after my surgeries when I was working out there. So I think we really have a bond. So it's not up to my decision, but I love him as a coach.
Bulls go 30 for 80 from the floor, 4 of 20 from 3. Get a podium game for Delhi, and they're just out of gas. Is it the collective? Is it this many years of this guy? The fact that he's got nothing else in his life, and that he just grinds so hard and works them so hard. Is it? I mean, it's changing. Everyone just knows that. I just expected in this spot to see more out of them, and I never imagined a podium game for Delhi, although I'm psyched for the guy. If you watched late night West Coast Conference basketball and you saw him over the years, you knew that he could really go. But there are a ton of guys in college that can really go. Very few get the chance to have a moment like that.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
SVP and Russillo.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In our business, I talked about this a little bit earlier. Louis Riddick, ESPN NFL Insider, joins us. In our business, it's a contract business, and I was describing how it's really easy to focus on the money because that's where our eyes are instantly drawn. That's human nature. Mm-hmm. We can miss the minutia. We can miss the things that aren't seemingly as pertinent. And the reason I'm talking about this is because as it relates to the NFL and Roger Goodell and the fact that he's the guy that's going to hear this appeal of Tom Brady, well, this is what you have collectively bargained. You agreed to this. And it's the kind of thing you might not give much thought to until it rears its head in this way. If you've been on both sides, this player and front office, if you're a player and you're collectively bargaining this, what would you prefer to see? What would be a more maybe reasonable way for this justice to be meted out?
Well, in the perfect world, you would want it to be an independent third party. In this world, players are definitely going to want it to be an independent third party because, like it or not, Roger has kind of taken a stick of dynamite to his own credibility on too many different occasions. And that's what the problem is here. You know what? I was thinking about this earlier. This is a guy who's one of the most powerful guys in professional sports. He sits in most. Right. I mean, he sits in a chair that is pretty big, nice, leather-back, big king chair.
Sitting on $44 million.
That's right.
Swishy, brother.
And you know what? And we talk about this guy as if he has zero credibility and zero ability to make decisions that are fair, equitable, rational, well-reasoned. And it's just that's what comes along with all the ways in which he has kind of like misused his power, if you want to say it that way. And that's really unfortunate because it shouldn't. Well, number one, we shouldn't even be at this point with this whole issue as far as the deflated footballs in the first place. But the fact that now the conversation is about should Roger Goodell be hearing this? I mean, he's the commissioner,
right? And
it was collectively bargained, as you said, and he's just exercising his right to hear the appeal, which is what people agreed to.
They agreed to.
That's right. And it's funny how it's even a debate. Like, well, should he or shouldn't he? Well, what do you mean? If I'm him, you know what? I'll bet you Roger's thinking this, and I'm not going to speak for him because I don't even really know him. I'm sure he's thinking, wait a minute, why is everybody like tripping on me, putting myself in this position when I have a right to be here?
Oh, I'm not.
You know, I'm not saying you. I'm saying in general. I mean, it's the topic du jour today. Should Roger Goodell be in this position? Well, if he hadn't messed up some of the things and called into question his own decision-making abilities in the past, we wouldn't even be talking about this. But unfortunately, he's made that bed. As Mama says, you have to lay in it now, and that's where we're at.
And I think we're on the same page here. This is simply a matter of this is what we all agreed to. Mm-hmm. So all I'm doing is what we've agreed to do.
Right.
And so as has been point made here, and I'm sure elsewhere, if your mom or dad grounds you and then you go back to them to appeal to stop how's that going to work? So I don't know how this plays out.
Yep.
I talked yesterday about the Wells report. The math of it doesn't make sense to me. The science of it is beyond my comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
When I just cut down to the common sense part of this, about the text and all the things, I mean, again, I think we've covered some of this terrain. It certainly seems to me that something went on. I believe that we've done what we do in 2015. We put a magnifying glass on it and turned it into something that is just a staggering tonnage of words. Does this even seem reasonable, the amount of time we've spent covering this discussion?
Absolutely not. And the thing about it, Scott, is our intelligence as outsiders who are kind of viewing this continues to be insulted at every turn. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the deflator has to do with losing weight. Okay.
Come on, man.
Sure. Okay. Right. And, originally the guy went down the tunnel, says that he didn't stop at the bathroom, just took the balls to the field. Then when they say, well, we have you on video, oh, yeah, I did stop at the bathroom to use the urinal. Oh, the bathroom doesn't have a urinal. Oh, yeah, I saw. Everything here at every turn. And then now with the Patriots issuing the report that they issue, it really is. It's become a sad commentary as far as how the commissioner has been handling discipline in the NFL right now. And, look, I said this earlier today. All that needed to happen here was the fact that Tom Brady just needed to stand up and go like this. If you remember, the reason why we're allowed to manipulate footballs is because we wanted to increase the scoring, we wanted to increase the proficiency of quarterbacks, give the fans what they want, so we can play the game at the highest level. Me, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, the people pay a lot of money to come see play. Maybe I pushed the limit too far. The balls dropped below the recommended, or rather the legal pounds per square inch. What do I need to do? These guys did what I told them to do. They were fixing the balls the way I wanted. And people, I would bet people would have said, hey, Tom, okay, let's just work this out somehow.
Within the league?
Right, somehow. But you know what, when you start, now it's just become a matter of I'm not giving in, you're not giving in, I'm not giving in, well, you're not giving in, and now it's ridiculous.
And there's a certain level of I believe, deserved arrogance on both sides. I mean, if you're Goodell, he didn't get there because he was incompetent.
Sure.
Now, has he mishandled some situations? I believe we all agree he has.
Yeah.
But he didn't get there because it was not rewarded incompetence. He got there because he was good at a number of different things.
Mm-hmm.
He's compensated as such. He's a guy that's going to look in the mirror and he's going to see a powerful man, and that's going to afford you a certain level of arrogance.
Sure.
And if you're Brady and you're the Patriots, same story. So this, to me, feels like egos run amok on both sides, and I don't think either is without fault, and that's why I can't summon false outrage, and I don't.
Right.
So I'm left to feel like everybody deserves this mess because they all conspired in creating it. Do you feel the same?
Absolutely. And you know what? I always say this. Egos are fine. I love egos. Everybody in professional sports has one, otherwise you wouldn't get there. You wouldn't get to the spot that you are in your career if you didn't have one, and it's a good thing.
Oh, mine's out of control. I can't believe you can fit in here, man.
Especially now, Mr. Midnight. I get it.
Settle down.
But you know what? Now what it's become is now it's not about egos to me anymore. Now it's about an agenda. And agendas are never good. Ever. The agenda for the Patriots is we're just not giving in. We're the Patriots, and your report is faulty. And the agenda of the commissioner is, look, I'm the commissioner, and I want to win. And I want to protect the integrity of the game. Yeah, I know that's being floated out there. But they don't want to be told. He doesn't want to be told what to do because it's his job, and he's doing what his job says he's allowed to do. So now it's become about everything other than really protecting the integrity of the game. I don't think it's really even about that anymore.
No, I just think
it's not about that. It's about I want to win.
Exactly, and I don't think the NFL deals well in degree of loss. They don't want a loss of any sort,
no.
and that's why I wonder. I'd said all along I thought he would be suspended, and then I also thought it would get reduced. Now I think it's about degrees of loss. If you take any off, then New England can claim victory. Now it feels like you've really, really dug in, and now it feels like a brawl.
You're right. You have taken you've taken all your chips and you pushed them in. You can't take some back now. I mean, the Patriots. I mean, these are the mighty Patriots, the team that has been just steamrolling their division and really pretty much steamrolling the NFL for a long time. They're not going to just lay down. They just aren't, and that's what's happening. It's like that old commercial where you see the two Rams just butting heads up in the mountain, and you just keep hearing that boom, boom. I mean, that's what it is now. That's what it is, and the only thing everybody's getting is a headache. That's what they're getting. So
I couldn't agree more. I'm thankful we at least have some room for other topics of conversation here. I don't admire those of you whose job it is only to talk about this. Good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, no kidding.
Louis Riddick, thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the weekend.
Okay. Right.
SVP and Russillo.
Mayo's the best condiment. I don't know. I don't have actual official awards, but Spencer Hall, if I did, you'd win one as one of my favorite writers. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I would decline that award on principle, but appreciate the sentiment.
Understood. I think people use emojis when they are not skilled with words. You're great with them, but last night you used every emoji that I've ever seen to describe the movie Mad Max Fury Road. You were at the theater. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I really wish I could have just reacted to this movie with, by recording noises, primal screams, yells, etc. It's really because I'm obviously a connoisseur of fine cinema, having actually seen King Ralph with John Goodman in the theater.
Sure.
So please take any and all of my opinions with a grain of salt. But this movie is basically the perfect movie for me, and I believe America and the world at large, because, first of all, the first thing you see is nothing. You just see, destruction and wasteland, and the first thing you see the main character do is eat a two-headed lizard raw. Just pick it up off the ground and eat it, and then 3 seconds after he enters the frame, he's immediately chased by bone-white cannibal mutants who only want him for his blood. So 2 seconds into the movie, I'm already set. And as if that weren't good enough exposition, explaining the plot, the basic motivations, that's 3 minutes in. And the rest of it is just a sustained 2-hour-long car chase, briefly interrupted by crashes. That's it. That's the entire movie, and that's all you need.
I read Will Leach's review as well, and it echoed that. And there's how much fire, Spencer, is there?
I might have, to be honest, I might have oversold the fire. But that's not because there isn't a lot of fire in the movie. That's because this is a buffet, and fire is just one part of this grand maelstrom of pure chaos and nonsense and just absurd, exhilarating violence. There's fire over here. There's some overturned semis over here. People can ride anywhere on a car in this movie. I always joking about how in the 1970s you could ride pretty much anywhere in the car.
Right.
I was wrong. In the post-apocalypse, that's really where they begin to relax vehicle safety regulations and just let people ride on the hood. This movie would make as much sense or more if there were no dialogue work whatsoever, which is why it is absolutely perfect. And I mean this, and I mean these two things, by the way. One, it's actually pretty restrained. It's got a real fine eye for exactly when it decides to completely flip a tractor trailer or have a car explode while crashing into another exploding car. And two, it's really a movie about relationships.
Yeah. The complex dynamic between men and women.
Actually, yeah. But you know what? The best part is that's a suitcase, man, and you can pick it up or if you want to or not, because if you think about it too long, don't worry. There's something else flying in the screen, on fire, on a pole, being pole vaulted from one car to another, blowing up, caving in, being chased by, mutant cannibals again.
Right.
There's a lot of mutant cannibalism going on.
All right. That's Spencer Hall from Every Day Should Be Saturday on SB Nation, one of my very favorites. I'm going to take a gigantic, huge U-turn here from this because I think we get it, to a city that you love and you've written about with great passion, and that's Memphis. They're home tonight against Golden State. Why do you love Memphis? The city, the place, the team?
Well, pretty much for the same reason I like Mad Max movies. It's not a subtle place. It's primarily about character, just like the Mad Max movies. And if you watch the Grizzlies, there's a lot of car crashes. And sometimes, as in games 2 and 3, those car crashes end up the way of our protagonist. And then sometimes, like the last couple of games, it goes badly for Mad Max. Here, played by, I don't know, take your pick, Zach Randolph, Mike Conley with the mask. It's probably Mike Conley with the mask, right? That's a very Mad Max thing.
I think so. I would encourage you to Google's your friend. May 28, 2013. You can read Spencer writing it. The headline is "Everyone Knows Someone in Memphis: The Grizzlies, the Cities, and the End." We'll see how it ends tonight. Our time's short, man. You filled it more than capably. I appreciate it, and I look forward to bugging you somewhere this fall to talk about football. All right?
My pleasure. Thank you, Scott.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, will hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball.
Throw to the plate. Safe at the plate.
Right through the World Series.
For the third time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The best in his field at anything. I think Doc Emrick's better at his job than any of the rest of us are at anything we do. How's that for an intro, Doc?
My goodness. Well, I'd argue about you, but I guess we're going to see you entering a comparable field here shortly.
Well,
this is not your last interview, I hope.
No, it's not. But I plan on just doing shots of whiskey and just winging it at midnight. I figure that we got a lot of latitude there. We'll sort it out. But Doc, in all sincerity,
that's great.
I appreciate that.
For you.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate you being kind with your time and joining us here. I am a bandwagon Capitals fan, and so I watched with great dread. And I'm curious how you describe a Game 7 overtime, knowing that the goal that is described is not a goal that ends a game. It's a goal that ends a game, a series, and a season. What is that like, and how is it different?
You try to be very careful, first of all. I think the one thing that's very important is you treat it, and I was talking to Rob Shipp, the supervisor of officials, that morning, about the referees and how they are if it goes to overtime, and he said it's just the same way. You want to be very, very careful and not drift anything away from the commentary or from what you're watching, because just like an official, you want to make sure it's a good goal, and you want to make sure that you're in advance of it when it goes in. And so those are things that are important because of just what you said. It not only ends the run, it ends the series and sends somebody home. And as we were going into that first 2 or 3 minutes of the overtime, I thought it was the Caps who were going to win because they came out with such a furious attack. But Lundqvist, he earns all the credentials that he has for how he stood up to that as well as the first period.
Doc, I understand why the Capitals collapsed because it's one of 5 3-1 leads that have been blown, just gets thrown on the pile with the rest. But I felt this series, every game in the series was 1 goal, and I felt that you could have, any outcome would have felt just to me. And so I don't lump it in with the others, and yet I understand why it happens. Did this Capitals team feel different to you at all?
Yeah, it sure did. And I think the number one thing was that defense and goaltending wins in the playoffs. And this was a Caps team that was really solid in both departments. And you weren't able to say that every time in the past when they had those others. It's easy for those of us that don't put on equipment and sweat a lot in beginning in September and go all the way through to at this point, mid-May, to look at history because that's what we've got. But this was not one of those that fit into that same thing. I know it was a 3-1 that got overcome again, but this seemed like a different approach to me for the Caps, and it's one that I think they can build on in the future. I think this is going to be fine for them with Barry Trotz, the approach to the game he has, and it's one of those types that can win in playoffs. They just happen to wind up against the President's Trophy winners in a dice roll of an overtime 7th. And so if I were a Caps fan, even though I know all Caps fans read history and are tired of hearing about it, I wouldn't consider this one of those historic things like they've had in the past.
The Emmy Award-winning Mike Emrick, known as Doc, joining us now. The Stanley Cup semis. It is Saturday and Sunday of this weekend, and based on form at the moment, who do you fancy? Who do you feel like is just maybe a notch above the others at the moment?
It's amazing to me that little is being said about Tampa and much is being said about the other 3 teams. Now, part of that was regular season credentials, but remember, Tampa was right up there in points as well. But I don't know if it's maybe an unfamiliarity with the Lightning, that there aren't as many household names, or at least names that people are used to, that are across the nation and are casting in their votes on this and are giving their opinions. But I think this Tampa New York Rangers series is going to be terrific. And I think the Anaheim-Chicago series is going to be world-class. It might be one for the ages. Because as you look at the lineups and at the performances that both teams have had so far, in Anaheim and Chicago, you have a lot that's similar. And in New York and Tampa, you have a lot that's different. I haven't answered your question yet because it's so difficult. We across the country, we're getting mixed choices with predominantly Rangers in one and 50-50 in the other. I just think Tampa should be given a lot more credentials than they're being given by other people. They're going up against the Rangers, understood. Rangers get the check mark in defense and goaltending. That normally wins in the playoffs, and so that's why as you start to saw it off, you tend to lean that way. But you cannot deny 34 goals scored in 13 games. Only Anaheim had more and in fewer games than Tampa's got, and this was the team that was number one in the regular season. We know the Rangers have had difficulty scoring goals in these playoffs. Their goaltending and their defense has held them in there wonderfully, but that's the reason that this is like a 5-minute arm wrestling contest. It goes back and forth, and as strong as I might feel about the Ranger performance that we just saw, it was only one goal better than Washington, which really put up a gallant fight. And so it's not an overwhelming thing to believe that the Rangers will win this. It is on the edge of what we have on paper right now, probably the trend. But bottom line, Scott, is, and I think you'll understand this, I have to work with all 4 coaches.
I understand. And that's why you're the best there is, because that was a lot of eloquent words, and it led us in many different directions, and really not a final answer that was definitive, so no one will be upset with you. How could they be? Doc Emrick is our guest. It's ESPN Radio. And I realize this is maybe also like asking you to pick between your children of what would be the favorite of them. Do you have a favorite venue in the sport?
Well, for a while it was not Madison Square Garden, but a lot of times my favorite venue is determined not only by history, because I really like that part of our sport, and it hasn't been totally left behind. It's a wonderful thing to embrace. You don't live with it, but you do embrace it. And I think Madison Square Garden, with the total changeover that they had, gave us and all of the writers and all the people who have opinions that we like to put out there a much better working environment than what we ever had before. So for working environment, I think Madison Square Garden is the best of the remaining 4. For the thunderous ovations and the noise and the drama of national anthems, Chicago is. Mm-hmm. For what I think winds up being off the radar, it's Anaheim. And the changeover in Tampa inside the arena and the establishment of a pipe organ there and the thrill that the fans have with the team that they've gotten and gotten back to the conference final for a rare chance makes theirs very special too. But if asked to pick my favorite cities to work in, they would be Chicago, Boston, and Pittsburgh. And there are different reasons for each one, but I think I've kind of tipped off Chicago. Boston just because I love the compact notion of the city and the fact that you can walk to the rink because you can walk just about anywhere if you're downtown because the rink is there. And Pittsburgh because of the people. I like the baseball team a lot, but that doesn't enter into a lot of the other things. But the people there are very friendly, and I worked in suburban Pittsburgh a couple of years, about 40 years ago, teaching at a small college. So those are my favorites from the standpoint of just personal preference.
As I believe, told you before, and as I have said often on this show, I am not one for false praise. There's just no need for it. So I mean sincerely, Doc, when I say A, thank you, and B, it is such a treat to watch you do what you do. There's just nobody that's any better painting a picture, and we have the picture, and yet you still paint the picture. I salute you, sir. Congrats on another Emmy, and I hope it's a great rest of the way.
Thank you, Scott, very much, and I wish you best with the new endeavor, too. You've been the voice of reason for a long time, and it's not to say that others don't have the voice of reason, but yours is relaxed. That's always pleasant for me.
That's very, very kind.
SVP and Russillo.
Mayo's the best condiment.
I got something to say.
Actually, a lot to get to. We will be doing a lot of reminiscing.
Earlier today on SVP and Russillo.
Let's see. Do we want movie reviews, compliments, or Chris Long? I think Spencer Hall on Mad Max Fury Road first. What's the movie about?
people can ride anywhere on a car in this movie. You know, I always joking about how in the 1970s you could ride pretty much anywhere in the car.
Right.
I was wrong. In the post-apocalypse, that's really where they begin to relax vehicle safety regulations and just let people ride on the hood. This movie would make as much sense or more if there were no dialogue whatsoever, which is why it is absolutely perfect.
Apparently there's a lot of fire, a lot of cars run into each other. A man bites the head off a two-headed lizard at the start of the film. Sorry, spoiler alert. But as Spencer put it, eloquently as always, it's really a movie about relationships. So go check that out. We visited with Chris Long, who set the stage for a very uncomfortable custody battle over future guest appearances as Ryan and I go our separate ways this fall.
I feel like my parents are getting a divorce or something, and it's just an odd feeling. Like, I don't know how it's going to look. Seeing you on your late night show, I think I'm going to be very happy for you, but there's always going to be that, you know, I miss SVP and Russillo. So I texted Ryan with those sentiments, and he said, I'm going to win the custody battle. You can stay with me, bro.
That's to be determined, okay? We haven't sorted that out yet. I get to at least make my case. Long should be on the radio all the time. I mean, he's brought sunshine to a cloudy place. Speaking of sunshine, Doc Emrick, who is the Emmy Award winner 2 years running for the best play-by-play man in our business, couldn't be a nicer guy. And then how about this? In a week that has featured so much kindness from so many of you all about our show and how much it means to you, and it's been so great, we get this, a tip of the cap from the best there is.
Thank you, Scott, very much, and I wish you best with the new endeavor, too. You've been the voice of reason for a long time, and it's not to say that others don't have the voice of reason, but yours is relaxed. That's always pleasant for me.
My voice is pleasant, and my approach was saluted by the guy. That's great. That's nice. How about that?
Let me ask you a question.
How big a disaster am I going to be on the last show? Like, just how big a disaster? Knowing me, knowing how, like, sappy I get all emotional and whatnot, I mean, it's going to be bad.
You'll be such a disaster that you'll come in early that day.
I was early today. I was early. No amount. I could come in at 9 o'clock for an 11:30 meeting for the next month and a half or however long this goes, and I'd still be behind.
Yeah, don't even bring that up because that's impossible.
Well, I'm not going to.
I know.
Because there's
so don't even bring it up.
Okie doke.
I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah, no, please.
You're going down to the Preakness for tomorrow. I would
Yep.
imagine you're leaving tonight.
Yep.
What time's your flight?
You know, it'll take off when we get there. We'll figure it out.
Take one of those shortcuts, too, to the airport?
I was going to go by the house.
Park where normal people park?
I was going to go by the house and see the fam, but apparently I would miss my daughter. So I guess I'm just going to go right to the airport and just go to the old spot where the plane is and wait to get on it. Then we'll go on down.
You worried about who's going to be sitting next to you on that plane?
Nope, I'm not. What's up?
I told you are set.
You love to bring it up. You love to bring stuff up. But that one time...
Because it's the best. There's nothing better than being able to fly private. You gave me the opportunity to do it once. I'll never forget it. And it's amazing.
It certainly adds a layer of convenience to things. But I'm not able to do it often. This is a short one, you know. You thanks to our friends at Wheels Up for helping make this possible. But you know, you work hard at stuff and you squirrel away a nickel or two here, a dollar or two there, and you know, then your friends call you out on the air and make it out like you've got a jet standing by with like a pilot that lives in the guest house out back.
If they got any horses down there this weekend with like outsider, inside, or outside in his name?
You want me to bet on them for you?
Would you?
Yeah, like what? Give me parameters you're comfortable with. Like, what do you? I'll keep a running.
4 legs.
No, I mean,
no.
I'll go up to $20.
$20.
$20?
Yeah.
Okay. So anything that's like outsider or anything that's Mike or anything close to outsider or Mike. And if there's a horse named Outsider Mike, which I'm unaware of, but if there were,
I'd do 40 for that.
He wants you to buy that one. That's like 20 G's probably.
No. Did you hear what he said? He doesn't want me to buy the horse. He wants me to bet $40 on a horse named Outsider Mike. 40. We're gonna push the ante up to 40. All right. Baltimore, look forward to seeing you. And thanks again for all of the kindness throughout the week. And we will see you back here on Monday. Pray for Russillo if the Clippers lose, because he's gonna be just so salty to deal with.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.